It's Thursday, so we're going to let the rules and world building aside a little bit to get into the arts and crafts and the fun side of tabletop role-playing games. Welcome back, fellow Game Masters. I'm Richard Quiner, and welcome to the first Tabletop Thursday, where today we're talking about minis. That's right, miniature figurines. Do you need them? What are they good for? What are your options? And if you should really go down that path or not. I guess we could cover all that in this video. Now, the main use of minis in tabletop role-playing games is to give the players and yourself, the Game Master, a kind of more tactical overview of a combat situation. Usually they're used with battle maps or some sort of models in that way, so the players can actually move the minis around, judge distances between them and enemies, and you can judge distances and who is in which position during a combat scenario. Just as a disclaimer, I am a big fan of miniatures. I've put way too much time and effort into minis and way too much money, and I have stacks of minis that are unpainted that I'm working on. I'm working on them. I will probably share some of that with you over the next year, but the basic idea is I'm familiar with minis. I know what's up. I know what's up with minis. But here's some questions that I see all the time and kind of my answers to them. First up being, do you need minis to play Dungeons & Dragons? And really the answer is no. Need is too strong of a word for this situation. Need, when you need something, like you need to breathe, you need to drink water, you need to eat to live. Do you need minis to play Dungeons & Dragons? No. Are they fun? Are they cool? Do they give an extra level of enjoyment to the game? I personally think so. I enjoy using them when running my games so the players can be more involved and the players can have more control over their characters' actions by just moving a mini around. I think it adds that to the game, but is it a necessity? No. I've run games just in mind before, and that's just as good. It's just as good in terms of fun and storytelling. But do I recommend minis? Yeah, I do. I suggest everyone try them out at least once. But here's some of the side notes of them. You don't need the expensive plastic ones or metal ones. You don't need those to get the effect of minis in your Dungeons & Dragons or any role-playing game. A couple options. Here's some things that I present to you as options for minis. Number one are more paper or cardboard tokens. You go online, you search up Dungeons & Dragons tokens or Pathfinder tokens. You can find a lot of art. And some artists have posted their art for free, so you can download and use their tokens. You get those images, and a lot of times they're just like portraits of characters. You get those, you print them out on cardstock or regular paper, and if you don't have a printer, just send them to a FedEx, Kinko's, or if you don't have that, there's other ways to do it. You can make your own minis by printing them out, and then just cut out the papers. And if you want something a little more sturdy, take a bunch of soda bottle caps, because this is America, we drink a lot of soda. You probably have some soda bottles lying around or have had at one time. Take some soda bottle caps, glue the mini to that, and now you got a sturdy plastic mini with an image of the character on there for you to use. It's a pretty simple, straightforward way to do it. It doesn't cost a lot of money, it just takes a little bit of time on your part to make that happen. Now, are these cardboard or paper minis fulfilling, I guess you could say? Is it fun to sit there and have minis? Yeah, it's still kind of fun. It's kind of like playing chess or checkers in that case. But you can also step it up a notch by using stands, or standees as some people call them. There are companies that make these things, and you've seen them in other games. It's basically a hard cardboard, like a thick cardboard that slips into a piece of plastic that stands it upright, and there's pictures on both sides. For tabletop role-playing games, there are companies that make solid clear ones, so you can like see through it and see both sides of the character. They're pretty cool, they're really useful, and they're a cheap way to get minis on your table. Do you have to go and buy these fancy plastic or thick cardboard ones? No, you can make your own of these also. Here's how. You do the same thing. You get your images. You find some images that maybe someone else has done, or you download or make your own, or any number of things. If you're an artist, you can draw the characters, print them out onto card. So that's the next step. You get your minis, you size them down smaller, you print them on a piece of card. Then you use those binder clips. Those black binder clips that they're like alligators, and you stick your finger in them and it hurts a little bit. Those, you get some of those. You put your mini, your new paper mini, in that stand, and then you pinch the wires and pull the wires off. And then you use the plastic binder clip as the stand for these standees. And that's how you get some good minis as well. They're a little better than just round pieces of paper or cardboard that you move around the map. They stand up, it's a little more 3D, and it's a little more immersive and fun for the players. And the last option that I'm going to describe or explain to you are the sculpted minis. These are the classic ones you'll see in a lot of videos and streams. You'll see people playing with these nicely painted plastic minis. There are a lot of different resources, places you can get these things. There's ways to get them cheap, there's ways to get them very expensive, and they run the full gamut of quality as well. If you want to go the plastic mini route, I suggest buying your monsters and your creatures and your enemies in bulk. That means look for products that give you a lot of these minis for a very low price. Recently, my nephew received a tube of minis that was only like $20, but it came with 90 minis of various monsters, fantasy monsters, inside this tube of minis, and it's on Amazon. I've seen it. You could get something like that, and that will fill out quite a few minis for you. If you go the route that I took, which was more specific for Dungeons and Dragons, was I looked up the Dungeons and Dragons board games, which most of the board games come with about 30 to 40 minis, and you pay about $50 for them. So you're running around $1.50 to $2 per mini. It's not that expensive when you really look at the big picture, and you get quite a few minis that are pretty decently sculpted. They're kind of fun to use, and they look like the creatures you want. If you want to get more specific, like for your players, a lot of times the players have a very specific, vivid idea of what their character looks like in their mind, and they want a very specific mini. For that, I really recommend going to Reaper Minis. Look on their website. I'll link that in the description. If you look at their website, they have tons of minis that have been sculpted over the years for all the a bunch of different game systems. I don't know if all the different game systems, but they have a lot. And they run in between $2 to $7 per mini. This is why I say don't buy these in bulk, just buy one or two, or have your players just buy their own if they're that interested in having minis and you don't have the ones that work for them. But they are a very reputable company with really good quality sculpts, and I really do like Reaper Minis. The other side of Reaper Minis is you can also get in on their Kickstarters. I did this about 2 years ago. I pledged to a Kickstarter. I'm waiting for the minis. They're supposed to be delivered in like March or April, but essentially I'm getting about 150 minis, maybe 140. And I only paid about $100 for them because I was an early adopter. I said, I believe you will deliver. So Kickstarter is another option if you find a company that seems reputable and can deliver minis for relatively cheap. So that is another option for you if you want to go the plastic mini buying in bulk route. Dungeons and Dragons also has produced or partnered with a company called WizKids to produce their own minis that are very specific for races and classes. Like if you go to your local game shop, if they sell these things, they're probably going to be about $5 to $6 for a box. Sometimes they come with one mini, sometimes they come with two, depending on the character type of class you have. So with the WizKids Dungeons and Dragons minis, usually you can find a race or a class very specific for your players or your characters that you want to include, which is really neat. Now, word of warning, be careful with miniatures because it's a slippery slope. It's like plastic crack is what they sometimes call it in the wargaming community. Buying a miniature, having the fun painting it is really satisfying creatively and artistically, and you can find yourself suddenly buying more minis than you really need, and then you have a whole stash and nowhere to put them, and never getting painted, which is one of my laments. But the point is, just be careful if you are going to get into plastic minis to only get what you need so you don't break the bank. And I really recommend not getting into plastic minis until you've decided that you really do enjoy the game. If you're just trying things out, if it's running your first session, you don't need plastic minis. Go with the paper, go with some cardboard. That's good enough. Hell, even some dice or pennies could work for the miniatures that you really need. For me, minis are part of the hobby, and I like the variety. I like painting them. It's just part of the crafts, which I will show you some later on. But for you, you have to decide what really works for you. Try not to rely on them. Don't make them a crutch, but make them something that enhances your game moving forward. If you like the video, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button if you like all this stuff on the channel. And of course, I'm Richard Quiner, and thank you for watching.